Morning, folks. Welcome to Mark's Morning Show. Thanks for joining me this morning. I really appreciate it. As you know, we do this every weekday at the same time at 7:30 a.m. I'm just going to put our Instagram live as well now. So we're now live on Instagram as well. So we're live this morning on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn Live. Okay. So to people who join me every morning, I appreciate it. I've been doing this show since the 6th of January. So everyone who's been here and come and listen every week, a few times a week, if not more, and listen to the podcast, fantastic. I'm really grateful. Thank you. So this morning I want to talk to you about, we talked about yesterday how failure to a lot of people is a full stop. And to a lot of people who are dyslexic and creative, it's only a question mark. Right, and if you missed that show will be up on podcast now shortly, or you can look at it again on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is the same as our TikTok one at Mind's Eye Education. So what I want to talk to you about this morning is we launched a product many years ago. I was one of the people involved in Indigo. It was an internet service provider. That's where people used to get their email addresses from. So Indigo, we bought Indigo in about 1995. And we didn't buy it for a lot of money, but we took over all the debts of the company. And we knew very little about the internet business and about technology or anything like that. We just saw it as a good opportunity to take a business that was struggling and build the business up. One of the things we found very quickly, and we had some fantastic investors. We had Standard Life, with Richard Nash Waters, and with Davy stockbrokers. So we had a fantastic array of investors who all were investing because they saw this as a huge potential, this thing called the internet. But one thing we found out, and when we were 8 months of running the company, was that we were selling a product that was €100 a year, and that was email. We're selling email for €100 a year. And the challenge with that was you needed an awful lot of customers to make money and to pay the bills. And the corporate end of the business wasn't that big yet. So the corporate end of the business was still very small, still extremely small, the corporate end of the business was. But after 8 or 9 months, we started to run our thing, which is very important in all businesses, cash flow. So our cash flow was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and we were running our cash fast. And that's because we didn't really have any huge corporate business, but what we did have was, and I'm saying goodbye to my grandson. Saying goodbye to my grandson. So we didn't really have enough corporate business to keep us going. And we had an awful lot of normal people, residential people. But one thing we found was, in order to have signed up more and more email addresses, we needed a bigger bandwidth. And the bandwidth was basically a pipe going from here to the States. And that pipe was extremely expensive then. We're talking about £1 million or more. So to buy more bandwidth, we had to spend a huge amount of money just to sign up one more customer at £100 a year. That was a huge amount of money. And we were running out of money to keep the business going. So one of the things that during that time that was happening was we're trying to raise money, raise finance, make people aware of what the business was about. But we're a loss-making business. And it's very hard to get people to come back to us and talk to us. But at that same time, I was working on launching a new product called Net Nanny. And Net Nanny was a product that we had taken in from the States that you could load on your desktop to stop children looking at pornography on the internet. So it worked by every day this product in the States was updated with all the new sites from pornography sites. So all the new sites were uploaded. And so that if any children put in any of these keywords that related to those sites, well then it would block that site coming onto your desktop. Now, the challenge I had, first of all, was that I couldn't get it to work until about 2 hours before the official launch. And the reason being, we discovered we're spending a lot of money working with the company in America because we believe this product was something that people wanted, and if it sold very well, it would bring in a lot of cash flow to us. But the reason it wasn't working, that there was a new site out there called X.com, and every time you put X in your desktop, it was allowing you to download this to see this porn site. It was only the last minute we discovered that we hadn't got X, just X on its own, as a keyword. So the site was always showing this porn site. But the day we launched this product, things were very tight cash flow wise. And we were launching it in the Stephen's Green Shopping Centre in Dublin. And we had the great Marion Finucane. If anybody remembers Marion Finucane from Live Line before Joe Duffy, Marion Finucane was a big name in Ireland and a big radio personality, a very big radio personality who a lot of people knew. So on the way down to Stephen's Green, the then MD said to me, "How long will this take?" I said, "Well, hopefully 15, 20 minutes. He said, "Mark, we need to get back to work the phones. We need to get cash in. We need to chase money that we're due, and we need to get money into the business because we're coming very, very close to closing down. We're coming very close that the business will go bust because we're running out of cash fast and we are burning a lot of cash." So we're walking down past Stephen's Green, past the Shelburne Hotel. And as we passed the Shelburne Hotel, he said, "Right, so how big is this launch?" I said, "Well, we have Marion Finucane." "Oh, great." He said, "And how much is that costing us?" I said, £5,000. He went, "Oh my God, do we have £5,000? I said, "Well, Shay, we're selling this product I think we're selling it at 50 quid a go. We only need to sell so many to recoup our costs." And I said, "We don't have a PR company because we couldn't afford a PR company. And we couldn't afford a marketing company, really. We were doing very little marketing because we had no cash. We had very little money. So we weren't doing any PR or any marketing. So I was hoping that by using Marion Finucane, it would maybe get us into one or two newspapers the next day and maybe help drive the sales of the product." So we're walking down towards past Company Store, who is now gone out of business, past Anglo-Irish Bank, who is now gone out of business, past all those buildings on the way down to Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. And when we arrived at Stephen's Green Shopping Centre, we were amazed the amount of press in the building, because we were launching on the top of Stephen's Green Shopping Centre. There used to be a restaurant there, and the amount of press there was unbelievable. And the press were there not because of Marion Finucane, though she did draw a lot of press. The press was there because sex sells. Sex on the internet sells. And here we were bringing the product out to stop children looking at sex on the internet. And all these people were extremely interested in the product. All the press were there from all the leading newspapers, all the magazines. RTE were doing it for the 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock news. They were all there. It was phenomenal. I got a shock as I walked into the room. My MD got a shock as he walked into the room, and suddenly our whole demeanor changed because here's something that we believe was going to sell and sell and sell and bring in a lot of cash flow. So we launched the product, and the PR we got was amazing. Our MD was on the 6 o'clock news, RTE, the 9 o'clock news on RTE. We were on the front of the Irish Times. We were on the front of the independent newspapers, the Herald, and all that type of stuff. We were all on all that type of stuff, getting a huge amount of PR. And you would think that was a success. And that in itself was a success. But do you know how many products we sold up to a year later? Up to a year later, we'd sold 4 products. 4 of them. So from a sales point of view, it was a huge disaster. We had sold only 4 products in a year at 50 quid a go. And Marion Finucane cost us £5,000, right? However, here's where the success came in. The awareness of who we were as a company went through the roof. We got PR that we couldn't afford to pay for. As I said, we were on the RTE 6 o'clock news, RTE 9 o'clock news. We were everywhere for the sake of £5,000 and a product all about sex, right? But yet, even though the press loved the product, the techies loved the product, the reviews were great about the product flopped because parents didn't want to buy it to stop their kids looking at the internet when it came to sex. Why? Well, maybe the dads were looking at it, maybe the mums were looking at it, and they didn't want the barrier on their computer to stop certain people, maybe within the family, looking at porn, right? But it didn't sell. But the PR around it was absolutely enormous. And because of the PR around the whole product and how well it went, sales of email addresses went through the roof. Our corporate business started to take off extremely strong. So we're getting phone calls from like the GEA, Bank of Ireland, AIB, all those big corporate clients looking for us to tender for business and to use our services. So from that end, it was a very successful product launch. But also, it brought us, because of the awareness of the company, it made us one of the top brands in the internet selling that service in Ireland. We came up with a slogan, the internet is Indigo. And it also made the likes of Air, or Aircom as it was then called, realize that we were on the scene. And because our brand became stronger than their brand, that was one of the reasons they decided to buy us. So even though the product launch a year later was a disaster, we only sold one product. Sorry, we only sold 4 products. And it cost us £5,000 for Mary Finucane. The PR we got in the day was just enormous. And it saved the company. Our cash flow was drying up. And we were very close to going bust. But because of that PR disaster on the product, the awareness factor of the company went through the roof, and that became a huge success. And that's one of the reasons that Air or Aircom bought us, because they saw us as the leading brand. And so you can see that from a failure, what we deemed as a failure a year later on product sales, the success was on the awareness factor. And I tell the story in my book, You Need a Neck Like a Jockey's Bollocks to Be an Entrepreneur. I tell that story in my book for the simple reason that to point out that sometimes when things go wrong on product launches, or products don't go the way you expect them, that sometimes something else opens, a door opens somewhere else that helps the whole business. And that's why I said yesterday, an awful lot of people see failure as a full stop. An awful lot of people see failure as a full stop. But people who are dyslexic and creative, they see it as a question mark. They see, right, that hasn't worked, so what else can we do? With us, when that product launch, the product launch went fantastic. It helped us get cash flow in. It helped also our investors, Richard Nash and Candle and not Candlelight. It'll come back to me. And Davy Stockbrokers. It helped all of them see how strong of an investment and proposition we were because of all this PR they saw on TV. So from that point of view, it was a huge success, absolutely massive success. As a product launch, it was a complete and utter failure. I spent a lot of time getting this product ready, a lot of time testing it, working with the Americans, doing all the testing, working out the glitches, because we were basically the guinea pig for it. But obviously, people didn't want not being able to see porn on the desktops. And that's why the product didn't sell well. And that's why I said sex sells, right? It really does. So just remember, if you're doing something today and it's not working, and maybe you put your heart into something, maybe it's a product launch, maybe it's a new service, maybe it's your company as a whole. Have a look at it and say, what element of it is working? Always remember, there's a big company chain or supermarket chain in the States many years ago that was going bust. And the owner of it looked at the whole business as a whole and realized the bit that was doing well was a bit that was selling children's tiles. So Tiles and Roads were born out of that business. So maybe look at your own business and see, is there some element of it that is working for you? That is going really well. And is that something that you should be focusing on? Should you be focusing on that end of the business? Maybe there's some services you're offering that are taking up so much time that is not worth the business. I remember a number of years ago, I went to help someone in a business, and one of the first things I did was I went through all the people who had paid him for the last year and all his orders. And it turns out that he was spending all his time servicing the people who were giving him the least business. And the people who were giving him the most business, he even said himself, I may visit him once or twice a year. I don't chase him for business. But they were giving him the most. It was the 80-20 rule. But he was wasting his time on repairing machines, delivering product to companies that were giving him the least amount of money, but the maximum amount of trouble. And the ones that were giving him the least amount of trouble were giving him the most in revenue. And he realized he had to change his thinking, change his approach, and just focus on that 20% and see can he get more sales off them and more revenue and sell more product. And that's exactly what he did. So maybe today, if your business isn't doing well, maybe you're focusing on the wrong clients. Maybe you're focusing on the wrong service. Maybe you're focusing on the wrong product. But be hard and be cold when you're looking at it. And that's important. I mentor a number of business people, and I'm always amazed when we're sitting down with coffee that it's only when they speak about their problems, only when they speak about their challenges, they get it from here to here, floating in the air. Only when they can see it out there do they start to take it apart themselves, and with a bit of problem from me, realize that their problem isn't here. Their problem is actually over there, and they've been looking in the wrong direction. And they've been looking in the wrong direction for a solution. And that's what it's all about. Taking what is failing, taking it, examining it, and if you have to cut it out, cut it out. If you have to get rid of it, get rid of it. If you have to do something else with it, do whatever you have to do. But you need to make sure you look at it from everything. You need to examine what's working and what's not working. And that's important. So don't take failure as a full stop. Take it as a question mark. Take it as a question mark that you need to get creative. If there's a wall in front of you, you need to get over it. You need to get under it. You need to get around it, right? You need to jump it. You need a pole vault. You need to find a way around that wall or through that wall or build a door in that wall, right? You just have to. That's what running a business, that's what running a team, that's what leading from the front is all about. And if you do that and you practice that, hey, things will change for you. Absolutely change. Also, don't forget, as I say to everybody every single day, make sure you have your question of the week or your question of the month written down in your diary, and make sure you're looking at that question every day. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, just go back to some of my previous shows in the beginning of January, and you'll see exactly how to use that question of the day to make your business stronger, to make you stronger as an individual, to help your business achieve its goals and help you achieve your goals. That's what it's all about. That's what it's completely all about. So if you have that question of the week, fantastic. If it's a question of the month, my question has been for 2 months because I haven't found the answer to what I need to do, but I will soon, right? Some people have the same question for 6 months, but they know when they find the answer to that question, and the answer to that question may sit down with them at a networking dinner. They may see it written down in the newspaper. They may see it on an article online. They may be out somewhere and be introduced to someone who gives them the answer to that question. But we don't know what the question is, and you haven't asked yourself the question. How are you going to find the answer to move you 10 steps forward in your business career, 10 steps forward in your own personal life, or your business 10 steps forward? If you don't know the question, how are you going to move forward? So I'm going to say goodbye to all my friends on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook and YouTube. Thanks for joining me this morning. If you do want any of our previous shows, all of them are on YouTube at Mind's Eye Education. If you want a copy of my book, You Need a Neck Like a Jockey's Bollocks to Be an Entrepreneur, you can get it on the website, mindseyeeducation.com, and you get a copy of my dyslexic children's books as well. All my children's books are up there on mindseyeeducation.com. I especially wrote them for children who are dyslexic. All children can read them, and all my proofreaders are children. So they've read the story and re-examined it. So there you go. So thanks very much for everybody on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks for joining me this morning. Really appreciate it. I will be here tomorrow morning, Thursday, same time, same place, 7:30. And I'm very grateful for you joining me this morning. And for all those listening on the podcast, thanks very much for making the podcast such a success. There's a new podcast up every single day of this show. And we're getting a lot of listeners, and I really appreciate it. It's fantastic that you are listening. So thanks very much. Take care.